Working on your original animated series or short film, should you copyright it first? So, great question, but it depends a lot on what stage of production and brand and audience are you in. So, if you're just starting out, meaning you're just experimenting with content, experimenting with storytelling, testing what type of format or jokes work for virality, what type of outcome do you want to optimize for? Do you want more followers, or do you want more views, or do you want to have certain conversions? Meaning you want to lead people to your services or products if you're going to sell merch in the future. Or you want to optimize for engagement, so to spark more comments. So there are many different outcomes you can basically engineer your content to strike. In general, when you're just starting out, you don't want to copyright anything because you don't have anything yet. And until you have at least, I don't know, 100,000 followers and at least 100 pieces of content, and someone actually being interested in your IP, you don't have anything. And until then, people are going to copy your content, they're going to steal your content, and there's nothing you can do about it. Technically, you could copyright it from the start, but is that going to be the best use of your time to go and chase every little account who is going to steal your idea or steal your content? Like, for example, for my short film, I have a couple of accounts who have basically stole my videos and reposted them on their accounts, and they haven't credited me at all. And I honestly don't care about that because my goal is not to develop this short film into a next Netflix series or film. It's basically to build an audience to promote my product and services. So that's kind of my angle with my art, so to say. But even if I was planning to sell this to a big distributor, I wouldn't mind this while I'm still a small fish. And my time is 100% better used into really building this IP to be something of value rather than chasing other small fishes and bickering with them. So if I have registered my IP, I could probably sue that guy who took my content. Um, and I would spend a lot of money on lawyers, time into in negotiations, email correspondence, and all that bureaucracy that you don't want to do actually, since you want to create art and animate. So that is one reason not to do it. I even had another unpleasant experience when one girl not wrote me, but publicly stated that my Leap of Faith idea short film that I'm doing in partnership with Steamroller, she actually publicly stated that that's her idea, that's her IP, that she came up with the idea, and that Steamroller somehow stole that idea from her. I'm not sure how would that technically be possible, since Steamroller is only doing this project in association with me, or I'm doing it in association with them, however you want to look at it. But they're actually just sponsoring it in terms of resources, in terms of artists, but the whole idea is basically mine. The story is mine. And the funny thing is, the story itself, we didn't know the ending until, like, I don't know, last year, until one concept artist, Estelle Porderat, came with an amazing idea and figured out a way how can we make the ending work. Because my whole thing, my whole pitch, once I started, I don't have a story, I don't have anything. I just have this vibe or emotion I want to transfer into animation, and we'll see if we can make something out of it. And the whole thing took such a big momentum that at one point I realized, oh, shit, I actually do need some sort of story. But at the time, I wasn't so good with long format storytelling and figuring out how the hell, like, I didn't want to, it was also a problem because I didn't want to change animation. I didn't want to add animation. We could make it work, but it was too much costly. It was costly to edit it and change it at this point because we were already deep in production. So Estelle, our concept artist, really figured out a great ending and tie the whole thing together. So it was like a collaborative effort to figure out a story, yet this person claimed that it was their idea and their IP. And again, if that was more serious, if my IP was more publicly known or it had more traction, I could probably engage with that. But again, I also see my time better spent on other stuff. And I've seen creators like Silly Crocodile Corey Williams that happened to him as well, especially with AI, where thousands of artists, not artists, but thousands of copycats basically copied his episode word to word. So not only the idea, the style, but the story itself. And I mean, there's nothing he can, I mean, technically he could, I'm assuming he has it registered, but he would basically need to spend all his days into Zoom meetings with lawyers and chasing down all these AI creators and basically putting their YouTube channels down. And that would be physically impossible since every day there are like 100 new ones. So it's almost like cutting one head of the Hydra and 100 new ones appear. So in terms of copycatting on the internet, I wouldn't worry about that as much, especially in that first build stage. And I even see it as a positive marketing in a way. If someone, copycats your thing, or just flatly redistributed, downloads and uploads the content or their channel, it's basically a free marketing for you. So I wouldn't worry in that sense. And if we are talking about short format videos, that's even difficult. That's even more difficult to figure out who is the original creator and who is the copycat, because especially with animated viral content, short animated viral content, there are so many jokes and ideas and storytelling patterns that are copied across multiple IP accounts. Like I'm literally watching a list from my program where I share this with clients. Like there is a list of, let me see, 30, like 40 or 50 IPs online. And I'm just gonna name you a couple of them, the big ones like Sad Noogie, It's Lenny, Happy Potato, Milk Mocha Bear, Coco and Daisy, Pudgy Penguin, Nobody Sausage, even Cleanosaurus, Hemi Boom, Mulang. So all of these big animated IPs, if you just, I don't know, spent a dozen hours investigating them like I did, you'll notice they're basically repeating a lot of these formats. And could you say, oh, they're all copying from each other? You could, but you don't know who the original copycat was. And even if it was copied, they adjusted it so well so it works with their own brand and with their own characters and in their own universe. You can't even tell anymore it's a copy. So that's the tricky part with art and especially short format videos when it comes to animation. That's the dark side of it in terms of if you figure out a viral video, a viral joke that works, you can bet your ass that 10 other creators who are watching you are probably going to replicate that on your end. And I would see that as a flattery, honestly, especially because nobody owns a joke or nobody owns, I don't know, a story in that sense. But the positive side of it, if they figure out something, you can copy them in your own universe and in your own style. So that's why I like short format videos. You're basically, by copying other formats and other stories and other joke, you can see what works and what doesn't, almost like when you're learning to draw. First, you need to draw or paint like 100 drawings, 1,000 drawings before you actually get that anatomy right, before you get that proportions right. It's the same thing with social media. So first, you need to train your eye to see something, and then you can copy it correctly and execute it correctly. Because if you just copy something but you don't know what you're copying, then it's gonna fall flat. I'm even seeing that with my content, that content that works, other animators who follow me basically copy it, and sometimes it works for them, but mostly not because they don't understand what is that they need to copy. Because it's one thing to see the content on the surface and thinking, oh, I just need to do this, but actually it's much deeper. It has way deeper legs and roots in terms of color, composition, movement, psychology beat, what triggers curiosity, what not, how to start, how to end. So it's extremely deep, and people can try to copy it, but again, until they learn, until they have at least 100 pieces of content, they won't know what they're copying. So I wouldn't worry in that sense. Although I do know there have been some instances where these big studios like Disney, Netflix, and others did steal actually small artist ideas. And every time I heard that, usually they spend years in lawsuits, negotiation, and usually every time small artists would win. Why? Because they would have a proof of posting, proof of uploading, because there is on YouTube or any platform, you can see the date when you posted, so it's actually proof that you are the original creator. However, the flaw of that is that you spent your time on lawsuits and spent your money with lawyers instead of spending your money on your IP. However, I don't think that's that's something that happens very often. Does it happen? Yes, but how probable is it possible? Yes, but how probable is that to happen? How innovative your idea is that you need to be worried so much in the beginning that you need to copyright it. So I would say, I don't know, maybe if that happens like 5% of the time. And if that happens, you would most probably win the lawsuits anyway, because you have the proof of your of creation. But 95% of the time, nobody cares about your idea, because people don't have a lack of ideas, they have lack of executions. I don't know. I don't think I would ever steal anyone else's idea, because I would be more like, why the hell would I copy your idea? I have too big of a problem, because I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with 100 ideas that are in my own head. I have so many ideas and so many avenues I wanna pursue that I don't know which one should I do first. So why should I copy another person's idea? Plus, because probably I think my ideas are better, but they're probably not. But I think that 95% of the artists are thinking in this way, that they most likely want to produce their own ideas and not copy someone else's ideas. And the people who are actually copying, they are less likely to be artists and more like on the verge of either scams, frauds, creators who wanna chase virality for no goal point. So yeah, but where does registering your short film or animated IP online make sense? When you actually build enough of big of an IP that either distributors, investors, partners are starting to come to you and are starting to be interested into some sort of distribution, some sort of payoff, partnership, something where they want a piece of your IP. And whenever you have someone investing money in you, they basically want to assign an ID to your thing, almost like buying a stock. So you have like almost like a barcode. Hey, this is my, even this Logitech mouse has like an ID to it, like an ID, like a barcode to it. So the store actually knows what is the exact copy of the mouse they sold me, so they can actually track it. That's the most important thing. When you register it, it becomes a thing. And when it's a thing, when somebody else buys it from you, depending on what they want to do with it, but eventually they can sell it to someone else. So it becomes like a commodity or almost like a stock that they can trade. But if there is no written contract, no written idea signed, they can't really do anything with it, and it just becomes a fluff. It's not materialized, yes, yet. So in that sense, I would, yes, agree. I would advise registering your IP in that scenario. But most of you who are listening to me are not in that stage yet, but you're in this first stage of building your audience, learning how to tell stories in short format videos, and optimize for virality so you get a bigger reach and bigger audience so that potential investor might come and be interested in you. All right, next question. How to keep consistency when posting when a single animated shot takes a lot of time to look postable, even when split up in phases, blocking, rough. By the time I have something to post, it has already been a few weeks since my last post. So this is kind of the core problem of animators, and our whole history of animating in visual effects industry, feature film industry, any kind of industry really, where we tend to polish a lot and take a lot of time to wrap one shot. And on social media, you need to adopt a completely different mindset. And if you are a solo creator, solo animator, or if you have a small team, this is your biggest advantage because you can actually produce often and you can pivot faster compared to a bigger studio. Imagine a Disney doing an animated IP on social media. Imagine how many people would need to agree what kind of story would need to be posted every week. That would be a huge chain of command and a huge bureaucracy that would have so many bottlenecks that every micro decision would take a lot of time. And as a result of that, they wouldn't be able to post as frequently. That's why they post once every year, once they have a new movie. But short format and something that is fastly done is designed for small creators who can really do for content quickly and who can pivot quickly. Now, what type of animation should you do for shorts if you want to have a fast turnaround? So you have to think about it strategically in terms of what type of rig are you going to choose? Are you going to have gajillion controls or are you going to have 5 controls? So you need to think about design, simplified design. If you take a look at Garrett Animates with his pigeon animations, like that is a really, I'm not sure how complex that rig looks like, but he has like 2 planes for eyes. And to me, it looks like a simple rig. I could be wrong, but it looks like easy enough character to be animated. He actually posts quite rarely, which is another point. I'm going to get to it later, but he posts quite rarely. But if you want to post quite often, you need to choose a rig that has minimal amount of control. So forget about facial, anything with complex face, like realistic characters, arms, fingers, that's not going to work. So you need to figure out what is the, if you look at Happy Potato, they look at what they're doing in terms of design, how simple that is, or even Pudgy Penguin. Their design is simple, but their animation is simple. Like they don't have, imagine when you have a character with arms, this would be impossible to animate. But Pudgy Penguin is this, almost like 2D After Effects animation that's much easier to produce. So seeing what type of rig you can find, like Lupin has a good rig with that blue chicken, basically a small, cute character with big eyes that will go really well on social media because cute, colorful characters perform better than complex details, fat, ugly male or female rigs don't perform as well. So if you choose a rig that automatically has a better chances of performing in the start in terms of design, so either you find something cute, either you find something feminine that's a female rig that's feminine and also appealing, that goes really well on social media as well. But also see how it can be simplified, or something weird like Glitch has, Glitch Productions on YouTube. So I would, again, strategically choose my rig or make my rig. That could be like if you can animate it in a day, in like 8 hours, that's probably a good test if you can sustain it long term. Another way I would optimize this, again, what I said in previous questions, I wouldn't have any backgrounds. So no complex renderings, no complex 3D models, flat background. Like look at what Klano is doing. Like they have a lot of their videos, they don't have a background. It's like a plane. That's it. Or if they have some sort of background or props, they're so minimal and they're so simple, like you can download them like a free model or just make a cube and animate it like that. Because the only thing that matters on social media is whether you engage an emotional reaction in the viewer, whether you can tell a good story in 10 seconds, not so much whether your animation is good, nor how polished it is, nor how even pretty, I would say. It has to be pretty in colors, bright colors, appealing characters, all that. But you don't need to have a complex background set. None of that. So the only thing you need to have is like a good story told in a 10-second. Now, when you're doing a video or animation, that's going to be a lot harder because when you have a video, that immediately becomes like a short film. And what I advise everyone who is just learning social media storytelling is to start with carousels. Carousels are super easy and super fast to produce. And they're so effective because they let you test an idea and they are going to train your brain in thinking in contrast. If you can tell a contrasting and surprising story in like 2 slides or 3 slides, like take a look at Loof and Timmy or Cat's Stray Reel, they're called. Like there's a green frog character. Take a look at what they're doing. So they're only doing carousels and they're performing really well because they're leaning on that surprise. So how can you tease an expectation in 2 slides and then have a surprise, have a twist that's gonna have like a chuckle in the viewer that's gonna prompt them to share that with someone else. Once you master that, then shift to videos, adding music, montage, complex poses, camera, all the crazy shit you want to do. But the first thing is this: can you master the art of contrast storytelling? Can you have a setup and surprise? Because essence of every humor is surprise. If you want to go into that cute, humoristic vibe, that's performing really well across all animated IPs. There is only one animated IP that is not following that same route, and that is blockbuster something, shortest blockbusters. So one of my clients pointed me in the direction of this IP. They're basically doing horror stories and they're doing really well on social media. This is a guy probably doing in Unreal or something, but take a look at the background of his business. He's basically monetizing this with brand partnerships and so on. So depending on what's your goal also long term, uh, anyway, I went too off on the tangent. I want to just go back to what I wanted to say. And by the way, you don't have to post so frequently. So if you know what you're doing, basically, if you know how to engineer virality, you can post like once a month and have that video go viral. So if you look at Garrett Animates, he doesn't post as often, but almost every one of his videos has millions of views. I'm not sure, he probably figured it out intuitively, but if you want to engineer that from the start, then you need to either exchange your time into some sort of program or mentorship where you're going to learn that, or you're going to exchange it in repetition. Are you going to repeat it a lot of times? But then are you going to burn out if you do that too frequently? Plus, if you have a full-time job. So it's all a trademark. Do you want to trade your money or do you want to trade your time and energy? Me personally, I always wanted to trade my money because I knew that I could always make more money, but I always wanted to have someone who is going to give me feedback on every freaking video I made, because it's one thing why I think a video didn't perform well, but it's a whole other thing why I actually didn't perform well, and only someone who is an experienced creator who is years ahead of me in content creation can point me out in the directions I was doing wrong. So that's kind of the benefit of always having someone as a mentor, as a guide on the journey where you're going. All right, next question. I've been considering starting a YouTube channel for a long time, but one of my main dilemmas is whether to create in English or in my native language, Serbian. Good question. English would obviously offer a wider reach, but animation-related content in Serbia is currently non-existent, and I would have a better chances of actually reaching people in Serbian. What option do you think is more worthwhile in the long run? Okay, so this is an interesting question, but I don't think the question is right. It's not what option is better in the long run, but it's more like what option can I do sustainably in the long run for me? Like, what do I want to do? So, when you say animated content, and if you're now on Zoom with me, I could ask you what is actually your end goal with your content, because nobody is making content for content's sake. We all want to monetize it in some way or the other. So, either you're monetizing with your product and services, or selling to a distributor or a partner, or selling merch, or some sort of sale is at the end of that funnel or at the end of that goal. Animated content in Serbian, you just have to think about who would your audience be, because your audience wouldn't be animation industry because it's non-existent. We have a couple of visual effects studios. They're not even animation studios. They're general visual effects commercial studios. They do general 3D stuff. So animation community and 3D community in our country is very small. And I'm just not speaking about Serbia, but generally anyone who is living in a smaller country, they have the same problem. The industry is non-existent. So making content for that already small audience is going to be tricky. So you have to look at your TAM, or total addressable market, how many people exist in that market, because more people will be interested in, I don't know, food or fitness than animation in Serbia. You can see how already that's a very small pool of people who will be interested. However, that doesn't mean that animation related content cannot be done in your native language. Why? Because I was thinking about this when I first started out. I was thinking, should I do it in Serbian or in English? But I knew that I wanted to cater my content and my services to animators and to animation studios now. But if I was doing it in Serbian, I could still find an audience, but that wouldn't be animation community. That wouldn't be animators. But those could be other people who are interested in animation as a hobby. So either kids or students who want to become animators, or again, just people who want to do animation as a hobby in many different mediums. So maybe they want to do stop motion or 3D or 2D. Depends, but I could definitely make something like, I don't know, Animation Hustle is doing, pulling those interesting peculiarities about animation industry and somehow leading that to my product or service. Maybe you want to have a workshop for kids and monetize it in that way. And that way you want to talk about animation in your own native language, where you can expand your market. It's just not going to be the same people. So you're going to have the same pool of people as maybe, I don't know, Vancouver or UK or US have. It's just going to be a different cup. The cup is going to stay the same size, if you think of it that way. So the cup is going to stay the same size. It's just the drink in it is going to be different. So in this English cup, you're going to have animators and animation community, and in your own cup, you're going to have content in your own native language, but you're going to have people who are animation enthusiasts, and there are a lot more of those. So it all depends, where do you want to go with your content and what interests you the most, and where do you want to, and if you're being called to talk about it in Serbian if you're feeling more comfortable speaking more in Serbian than in English. So it all depends. So yeah, that's how I would think about it. I don't think one is better than the other. It all depends. Who do you want to target? Who do you want to serve? What kind of content do you want to make? So for example, I'm not really drawn to, I don't know, content animation hustle is doing something like explainer videos. Oh, what happened there, like animation history side of it. I'm not really drawn to that. I'm more drawn to sharing my own personal experience plus adding some sort of trend hop from a popular movie or a show to kind of attach to it and talk about it from that angle, and also share it how does this make sense from a marketing perspective as well. So I like sharing like uh, animation content from a different angle, from social media angle or from marketing angle. So I like having myself involved in my content. I don't like having like I don't know, explainer or completely educational videos. So it's also up to you what exactly do you want to create. And also keep in mind that content in Serbian is not just made for Serbian market. It's also made for Bosnian market, Montenegro, Croatia. So you have not one country, but like four countries that all speak similar language that we can all understand. So think about that as well. So you definitely have market for it if you want to speak in your own native language. Next question. Is it a good idea to start YouTube solely for animation in 2026, competing with AI slop? It's a terrible idea to start an animation channel in 2026 when you take into account how much market is saturated, not with just AI slop and artists who are doing AI, but there's a lot more creators online, and there are a lot more artists who are now coming online that were silent just a couple of years back. So I'm seeing so many small entrepreneurs, like someone who was a dentist like 5 years back now has their Instagram channel, now has their TikTok channel, and everyone almost who has a small business, of course, has a social media account. But a lot of artists are now treating their social medias as they should, as their portfolio, as their website, so the client can get to know them and all of that. So almost everyone who has a job is starting to have a social media, almost like their CV. Think of it like that. So not only do we have AI, but we have a lot more competition. There are a lot more people now on social media than there was. And not client, but consumers, people who buy, are becoming much more smarter about the content. So they're not falling for the same jokes, a new format or a viral idea, or I don't know, something sensational suddenly doesn't last so long because so many other people are copying it, so it loses its essence quickly. So there's a faster turnaround, so you need to constantly see and follow what's going on in the market so you don't, I don't know, lose out the trends or you fall out the wagon. So there's so many reasons why you shouldn't do it, why you shouldn't go on social media. And you can say the same thing for animation industry. Why should you become an animator now when the market is so saturated? There's so many students pouring out of the animation schools, but they don't have a job. There's not as many open positions. You can also say, when is the right time to become a parent? Never, because when you're young, you don't have an apartment where to live, you don't have a stable job, you don't have money. When you're older, slightly older, you're chasing your career. And then when you're much older, then you don't have energy. So it's like never the right time to have kids. It's never the right time to marry. It's never the right time to switch jobs. It's never the right time to buy an apartment or take a mortgage. So it's never the right time for anything. However, I'll tell you why I'm doing social media, even against all these obstacles, if you want to see them that way. So if I didn't do social media, I would literally explode because animation is only like small percentage of everything that interests me and everything that I want to share with animation community and the world, whoever is interested in the same topic as me, basically. And I know that in my 9 to 5 job, I cannot possibly record that many trainings for my whole studio every week that I just have to say it somewhere. It just have to come out somewhere. Otherwise, I'm gonna explode. And there is something to be said about that huge energy that we have inside of us that is literally burning inside of us in order to create, say, um, move, go, do something. And that energy doesn't just disappears. It has to be directed into something. Otherwise, where it's gonna go? It's gonna come back right at me, but in a negative way. And I really think that's true that if we don't use that gift basically that we are given to redirect that spirit or redirect that energy into something, doesn't matter what it is. If only two people see it, doesn't matter. But important thing is that you get it out. If I didn't get it out of my system, I would become so much resentful, so bitter, so angry. I don't know what I would do. And I would hate everyone who would do stuff. I would gossip. I would hate my life somehow. And that's why I'm doing it, to not become bitter and resentful and not to have any um, regrets. So that's kind of my reason for it, because I know the price of not doing it is much more expensive than the price of doing it. So that's kind of it. And on top of that, there's never been the barrier to entry has never been lower to show up on social media. Like when in the history of time you can just take your phone and record yourself and just upload it. You don't need a fancy equipment, camera, lighting, anything literally. You just need to turn on your camera and say something smart. And especially if you can combine, I don't know, AI with your creative ideas, like I don't see why not. And it's better actually to do it and to go into a burnout and to start hating social media and start thinking, I don't want to do animation, I don't want to do social media, I want to go into gardening. I think that's way better if you go into it and realize it's not for you, and then you pivot and go somewhere else, than if you just keep on wondering what could have been. So yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it. And yep, hope it helps.